Kumpula. Craig has been involved in ERP and supporting customers from a consulting perspective for over 15 years. He's been with Infor for about 3 years now, where he is serving as a solutions consultant for customers. He's going to be taking us through a really quick introduction. It's not a SyteLine overview. He's going to do just a couple of minutes, just for those of you that haven't seen the interface. He's going to do maybe 2-3 minutes on that, and then just dive right into the Pick, Pack, Ship solution, which is actually baked in and part of the latest version of SyteLine 803. So we're not talking about a solution that you have to pay and license that way, but something that comes with the upgrade, if you will. So I'm going to turn this over now to Craig, who's going to, again, take us into SyteLine and into Pick, Pack, Ship.
Very good. Can everyone hear me okay? Coming through? Assuming so.
Craig,
all right. So what you've got in front of you is a quick preview of the SyteLine 803.11 interface. And I'm just going to briefly touch on some of the new navigational features in 803.11, especially for those of you that are new to the version 8 suite of products for SyteLine. I've got this particular screen set up from a kind of a navigational workflow perspective for demo purposes. So it's my home screen. Typically in an organization, based on role, the way you would navigate the product is from your own home page. So it probably wouldn't be like how mine is set up, but if you're in sales or manufacturing or customer service, whatever the case may be, you may have a home screen that looks something like this, which we call our solution home pages, or in this case it's specific to the customer service role, so it's a customer service home page. So just briefly touching on some of the navigation within a home page, you can see what is brought to your attention here, some key metrics. You know, percent on-time shipments perhaps, actual versus planned shipments amount, what's been booked today, so I can see my total order bookings for the day, what's been returned today, outstanding late shipments, top 5 orders. So any key metrics that you need to set up, we do provide some of those out of the box for the home page, but you can set up your own versions of these metrics to bring whatever key information you need to see. And then on the left-hand side, you notice the quick drill downs. I can get into my setup files. I can get straight to estimates and orders. I can go to shipping or packing activities, whatever the case may be that I need to drill into right from my home page. A couple of things I want to point out just real quickly here. One is something called critical numbers. In addition to the landing page metrics, you also have these critical number metrics, which can be tied to a home page, or they can actually be tied to any form or screen within SyteLine. So again, it's the ability to activate the key metrics that are important to you. And these are drill down enabled. So just a quick example, if I want to see, for example, my late incidents, I can see the value here, and I can, as you can see on some of these other metrics, I can change the look and feel of the gauge, if you will, and have them flag red, yellow, green to point to where I need those to be in my particular organization. Am I doing good? Do I need to address some outstanding issues? And so on. And if I double click on it, it takes me down into the details that drive that metric. And you can see here, as far as late incidents, now I can quickly see who the customers are for those particular incidents, what the description of the incident was, what the due date was, the priority code, and so on. And then in addition to that, if I highlight a specific item on here, I'm able to either drill down into a search, or depending on the field, if I scroll to the right here, I've got additional fields of data. I can drill right down into specifics behind that, maybe the incident details, maybe something related to the item. So with a right-click drill down, it does open up the application to give me access to additional detail information so I can drill down even further. And then there's all kinds of different ways to sort and group and highlight trends of data here, which I can save or view or print. But for the sake of time, we're not going to get into that today. but suffice to say I can drill down into those details, kind of do some ad hoc reporting or analysis of those details on the fly from each of the particular metrics that I'm interested in. So that's one of the things you've got available to you from those home pages. Another quick thing I wanted to highlight that's new from a version 8 perspective, version 8 and higher, and then each release of 8 has continued to enhance that, and that is the web and mobile capabilities. So most of you are probably familiar with this form open, another way to navigate the system. I'm just going to filter here on something to show you all my mobile forms. So again, out of the box within SyteLine, we've scaled a whole slew of many mobile type applications to get access to certain key information, again, as you can see in the list here, alphabetically, from account balances to cash flow to customer interactions to orders to estimates and so on. And there's a long list of mobile forms. I'm not going to open it up right within the application because these forms are scaled to open on a mobile device. So instead, I'm going to open them up on a little emulator that I've got set up here that represents a mobile device, just so you can get a feel for how that works. So now in the center of my screen, you see this little emulator representing a Samsung Galaxy device or an iPhone device. And if I log into the system, in this case as perhaps an executive, excuse me, an executive user, what it does is it connects via a web client, so I don't have to have really any client install on my device. I just connect to this web client, it logs me in, and now this mobile form is scaled for my device. And you can see now that the different types of information I've got accessible to me. Some represented by these little icons, which are customizable. You can create your own little icons for these to represent the data behind that. So at the bottom, I've got things like cash balance and today's bookings and today's shipments. But if I want to click into sales as an example, so now I can quickly see, maybe I want to look at pipeline by opportunity stage. So I drill down into it and I can see what's in my pipeline, the value in my pipeline by stage. Or maybe I want to look at it by territory or something like that. Maybe I want to do some analysis by margin. So I can see product code margin analysis. So there's a whole slew of these little mini KPIs as well as mini forms that get you into specific areas of the application. And these are already set up as part of SyteLine. So I just wanted to show that quickly as well. That's one of the key things we've been working on through the whole series of 8.0 releases. So that was just a brief intro to some of what's new, just to kind of give you a sneak preview, if you will, of the new SyteLine 8 features. So concentrating more on the Pick, Pack, Ship components, to introduce that subject, I'm actually going to show a PowerPoint just real briefly, just to introduce what Pick, Pack, Ship is in 8.03 and what we've been doing with that over, this is actually part of the 8.03.10, 8.03.11 release. So why did we add these features? For one, in core SyteLine, we didn't really have a robust shipping process that was native to the application. So we wanted to add a more natural flow-through, if you will, of the pick process, the pack process, and the shipping process. You still have the ability, if you want, to use the existing shipping functionality that's always been there. But this does give you ability to more documentation, customs documents, more enhanced bill of lading documents, things of that nature, which we'll show a couple of examples of. And then it does give you an integration to UPS and FedEx, so the World Ship application and the FedEx Ship Manager application, as well as we do have an integration on the labeling side to Bartender. And Bartender is one of the leading label products on the market. So we have an integration set up to that where you can pull data from the SyteLine application into the Bartender application. So it's integrated to the SyteLine tables and fields, and you're able to create your own custom labels, potentially for each customer if you wanted to. So that's another component of this. So this is the current process in SyteLine, which most of you are familiar with. You know, from an order, I can generate a pick list, go to the shipping process, generate my delivery orders, a bill of ladings. That's an optional process. And really, if you look at this bottom line, my only visibility was either it was in the inventory or it was not in inventory. So as I go through the process, generate my pick, at the end of the process when I ship it, it pulls it from inventory. So from a visibility standpoint, my product was either in the warehouse or it was relieved from inventory. With the new process, and I'll preface this with a little bit of a caveat here, this process flow is tailorable to your organization. So it looks a little busy when you first look at it, but you don't have to use every component in this flow if it doesn't apply to you. But similarly, as to what I had before, I can take a customer order and go through the picking process, but I've actually got a series of workbenches to go through. So I can go through a pick workbench, I can pick confirm that, I can go to a packing workbench, pack confirm that, where I'm generating my packages, my packing slip, packing labels, all that information, and then go to what we call the Shipment Master, where I can generate all my forms, my bill of lading, custom documentation, pro forma invoices, all of those types of things, and then my FedEx and UPS integration, and then do a ship confirm. And as I go through that process flow, you can see here on this bottom line now that I not only have visibility from my warehouse and then at the end where it's relieved from inventory, but I have visibility that it's in a packing location, it's in a shipping location. So as I move through these process steps, I'm able to visualize in various places or in my transaction records where my product is. Is it in packing? Is it in shipping? Has it been picked yet or not? So that's, in a nutshell, kind of the process flow, but again, it can be tailored to your organization's needs. I'll come back to this screen a little bit later on FedEx and UPS. So what I wanted to do here for the next 20 to 30 minutes or so is actually go through a process flow in the application to get a feel for how product moves through that pick, pack, and ship process. And to illustrate that, I'm going to move to another form here. And by the way, this is nothing more than kind of a workflow form, if you will, in SyteLine, and these are available to you as part of the 8.0 suite and higher as well. We use these as demonstration workflow tools within the application. But as you see, when I go through the process, it's pretty handy to use them for navigational purposes as well. So when we think about pick, pack, and ship, obviously it starts with an order. And really this form is representative of what I just showed you in the PowerPoint. So I take an order line, I go to the pick workbench, pick confirm, and then I've got different options on how I flow that through. So what I'm going to do is take an order, go to the pick workbench, pick confirm it, and then to show the entire process flow, I'm going to go to the pack workbench, pack confirm it, go to the Shipment Master, and ship confirm it as part of my process flow. And I'll show a couple of documents along the way, like perhaps the pick list, the packing slip, or a label as well. So let's take an existing order that I've already set up. I didn't think you probably wanted to see me enter an order, so I just staged one here. Keeping it simple for this particular demo flow, it's just a one-line order for a quantity of 5. And again, for the sake of simplicity, let's just assume it's a pull from stock item with a due date of today. As soon as that order is entered into the system, it's available in the Pick Workbench. So if we go back to this flow for a second and I open up my Pick Workbench, note the default view when I pull this up. Everything populates in my Pick Workbench. Now in reality, a user that's deciding or generating the picks, they're going to do that by due date, they're going to do that by quantity available, they're going to do that by customer. So I've got the ability to not only view everything if I want, but I can sort this, I can group this, I can filter this any way I like. So just as a quick example, maybe I'm just going to use my F4 key to turn on my filter in place mode. Maybe I want to look for everything that's shipping via UPS to a particular customer. So let's just say customer 1. Maybe I'm not going to look at due date now, but maybe I want to look at a particular item. So just like any of the other filter and place modes throughout the application, I can use this form to search for and find particular order information and then select those for my pick. Notice the grouping box here. The system has automatically assigned a group number. But as a pick person, I have the ability to override that group number. And what that allows me to do is group multiple items into the same shipment. And you'll see I can do this in a couple of places in the system. So if I decide that I'm going to ship those two items together, I can just simply assign them both to group number 1, select, and generate my picks. Okay, so that's one way I might use this. In my case, I'm going to go back to my filter and clear that. And I'm just going to say, let's look at everything due today. And in my case, the only order line I've got is the one I just showed you. That's the order line due today. So I'm just going to select that. And there's a couple of things that come into play here as well. Do I want to assign serial numbers? Or where do I want to pull this item from? Do I want to assign the location or let the system automatically assign the location? So if I do want to assign the location, I can go to this inventory tab and verify the location that this item is being picked from. So now I can see all my quantity on hand, what's been reserved from that location, what's available from that location, and here's my default stock location where I'm picking from. So I don't have to go here unless I want to change the location, verify the location, assign a serial number, etc. Okay. I also have the ability to print the pick list from here once I generate this. So let's go ahead and do that. And whatever order lines I've selected will now drop off my list. They've been picked. And the next step in the process, if we go back here, is to either run or view or print out that pick list like we just did, or go to this pick confirmation stage. And pick confirmation is really used to verify the picking results and select the location that you want for packing. So I've got a pack location here, which you could also set as your default. So I've got a pack location here called Pack Station 1. And then it also gives you the ability to assign a picker. So for those organizations that have a more sophisticated picking process, you can assign a picker to different picks, and then they're able to sort and view in their workbench what items that they're picking and working with. In this case, I'm not going to assign the picker. So let's just say I'm assigning the pack location, verifying the quantity that's being picked, completing that, and that really assigns that to a pick status. So if we go back to customer orders, and I'm going to drill into the order line details here for a second just to show something. Remember earlier I mentioned that the transactions are flowing through different processes in the system. So not only it hasn't physically been pulled from inventory yet per se, but I do have the visibility to, at the order level or at the transaction level, to see what's ready, what's been reserved, and now what's been picked. So that quantity of 5 has now been picked. A new status has been assigned to that. Upon picking, it has also automatically reserved the inventory. And there's actually a setting to allow you to reserve at the time of pick or at the time of pack, so it's up to you. But it hasn't been packed yet, it hasn't been shipped yet, it hasn't been invoiced yet. So if we go back to our flow, this has now been assigned to the PAC Workbench, which we're going to drill into next. And the PAC Workbench does a couple of things. Again, it's an optional step in this process flow, but it allows me to either do some grouping. If I've got multiple pick lists here, I still have the ability to assign the same group number for the same shipment if I want, just like we did at the Pick Workbench. So I could assign a grouping. And it also gives me visibility to other orders and pick lists that are out there for that customer. So as I highlight a customer pick list, it says, okay, here's some other orders for that customer, here's some other pick lists for that customer if there are any, and then I would have the ability to go and generate a pick for those as well, and then come back to this screen and group them together if I wanted to. So again, it's a completely optional. If you're doing a single pick list, single shipment, you probably wouldn't use this form. Okay. So let's select that. Let's say I want to move this to a ship location on my floor called Ship 1. I could assign a packer here just like we did for picking. It does give visibility to the pick list, the customer information, the order, the quantity picked, and so on. And let's just go ahead and generate that. Okay, so again, like the pick, that now has been assigned, and it goes to a ship location and actually generates a shipment number. And again, an optional step in this flow, do I want to pack that with specific packaging information? So if we look at my drop-down list here, shipment number 11 has been assigned, and if I want to, I can come into that shipment, pull up all of the pack information or items that are on that list. In this case, it was just the one, and then assign my packages to that. So what does that mean? That means in my process, I could say, well, I'm shipping 5 of those, and am I putting them all in one box? Is it going to be 5 boxes? Is it going to be one box for each going onto a skid? So I have the ability to, on the right-hand side, tell the system, okay, I have a quantity of, let's say, 1 per package, and 5 packages in this case, and they're 20 pounds a piece. And we do have the ability to, if you want to automatically feed the weight from the item master in that, we can process that. But this also can be interfaced with a scale to pull the weight information in. So let's say I've got a box here of, let's just say it's a 48 by 60 by 6-inch box that I'm putting this in. In this case, my FA10000 is a bicycle. Let's say it's partially assembled and it's put into a box of 1 bicycle per box. Okay. So when I hit this Create Add to Package, what the system does is it takes that information, whoops, I have to select it here, and it generates, then in this case, 5 unique package IDs, which you now see at the top here, 1 for each item, and then at the bottom, each of my individual package ID with a description of the package, package type, and so on. So I can do this to generate the actual package requirements, and then if I've got a unique serial number or a unique item within each package, as I highlighted on the left, I'm able to see that detail on the right. So I can say what goes into each of the packages. And once I'm done assigning that package information, I tell the system, okay, how many total packages do I have? What's the total weight? And then I'll generate my packing slip package labels from this form. Now this is where I would have the integration to bartender set up, which I don't have turned on right now. But when I process that information, it takes that packing information, generates my packing slip details, and stages this, if you will, to my final ship confirmation. So again, I don't have to use this form, but it is very useful for telling the system what's going into each package, what type of packaging do I have, and so on. And of course, if I want to print my packing slip, I can go ahead and do that here. So that's the PAC confirmation form. I'm going to go back to my home screen here. Oops, not that home screen, sorry. Back to my overview home screen. And as you saw, I can generate the packing slip. I can do my label generation, so I've got a sample label here set up as well. So if I wanted to do a UPS label, FedEx label, whatever that integration is set up, here I can create that information. If I do have the FedEx and UPS integration established, it does send that out to, let's say it's UPS WorldShip. It sends all the details to WorldShip, and then from there the pro number and all that information pulls back from WorldShip along with the tracking number and populates that detail within the SyteLine. And you would see that then in the Shipment Master, which we're going into next. So if we open up the Shipment Master here, you can see all the shipments that have been generated. And my shipment is shipment number 11. And here's all the details. So again, with the integration, the pro number, tracking number, and so on would be there. It does keep track of all the pick information. So here's the pick list that we started with the 5 items that have been picked for that particular order line. All our packaging that we did is visible here. So there's our 5 unique package IDs. My consignee information, my consignor information, the invoicee information, and then other details such as producer and exporter that I might want to include on this. So from here, I'm really just verifying the shipment details, and I'm staging this until the truck actually shows up, which then, of course, I could generate all the appropriate documentation. So maybe the packing slip could be generated at this point, the bill of lading, certificate of origin, and so on. And as I generate that paperwork, of course, it's looking to the fields here to populate the details. Let's just generate a bill of lading here as an example. When I submit each of those reports, maybe it's a certificate of origin as well, part of the Pick, Pack, Ship process does give you a lot more standardized reports, which then, of course, can be modified to suit your needs. But here, as I generate those, you can see with the little checkbox that those reports have now been generated and printed. And in my case, I just have those going off to an output file. So I'll show you an example of a couple of the documents here for my report output. So there you see my certificate of origin, which I just generated, the bill of lading, the pick list. So let's start with a pick list as an example. It shows what's been picked, the item, the quantity, where it's pulling from. So you can distribute these pick lists just as you could before, have somebody sign off on that pick and where it pulled from. So the physical document for the pick list. The packing list, I'll bring up an example of that as well. So the packing list has all the ship to information, pickup date, the order details, and then of course the line details on the order. And then any package information if that's been included as part of it. Sample bill of lading. There's a bill of lading report. Again, with the carrier information, if that integration is set up, all the package information on there. And then here's a sample certificate of origin. So all the documentation is then generated at that last shipment step. And really all I need to do is verify that. I do have the ability to change the ship via and so on if need to at this point. But I verify that shipment information, generate all my documentation, and then I say that this is ready to ship. And once that's been flagged as ready to ship, if I go back to my overview form here, that last step is my ship confirmation, which then of course relieves inventory. But that's where the shipment shows up. Any shipments that are flagged ready to ship show up here, and I just do a final select and ship to generate the shipment transaction. And that of course allows me to then invoice it, makes it ready to invoice. So if we go back one step here, just to point some things out in the Shipment Master. For some of my shipments, and for this one I didn't put in the tracking number, but for some of them I put in a sample tracking number so you can see that as well. So here's a shipment that was shipped via UPS, so I'm able to go back into my shipments and verify with that tracking number once that information is fed back from the UPS system. And then with the hyperlink, I can drill back right into the UPS system. So here's a dummy tracking number, if you will. It shows the status of the delivery and so on. So it does link live out into the UPS, or if it's FedEx, into the FedEx system via this tracking URL, where you can insert that tracking number and track the package. Okay, so that's kind of the flow in a nutshell. Not going through the invoicing process here, but to wrap that sample flow up, I'm just going to go back to this form here and address a couple of items. One is on the FedEx and UPS side of it. Obviously, there's a data mapping process that needs to be set up here with the carrier software. Services are available from both FedEx and UPS to help you set those up. Although, of course, on the SyteLine side, it does require use of our services to help you establish that. But inside of the 803 application are additional fields and tables that are set up to accept that information from an integration standpoint from FedEx or UPS. And then on the bartender side, as we mentioned earlier, those are customizable barcode labels where you can generate specific barcode labels for each customer and each ship to if you need to. And there is a pricing on those on the SyteLine price list for that bartender software. After the shipment, so if we go to the next step, after what we've just gone through, we go through a consolidated invoice process. The tracking of each shipment is tied back to that order through that carrier link. And the reason we go through consolidated invoicing in this process is there may be additional freight charges and so on that we are consolidating by shipment into those invoices. So it is sort of this batch process that we go through from an AR standpoint to generate the consolidated invoices. All right, so that wrapped up what I wanted to go through from a flow standpoint, introducing the product and giving you a feel for it through the SyteLine application. Again, just one more caveat. Initially, when people see this, they say, well, that's a lot of screens to go through to pick, pack, and ship it. And that's true, but again, keep in mind that those can be streamlined to suit your particular process needs. So at this point, I'll hand it back over to Joe for comments, and then we'll open it up for questioning.
Thanks, Craig. That was an excellent overview. I really appreciate that. I believe the customers on the line do as well. Folks, we're